Well, it's almost dark, and I get to go to sleep not worried about deer getting into the garden because I have this fence that's about 3 feet tall, and I didn't need 2 wires, but I did. Any deer that has ever touched this fence, and the deer are all local, they know the area, they won't be going anywhere near it because this whole area is like a force field to them. They have a horrible feeling when they got near it. So this garden with all those luscious collard greens and eggplants and tomatoes and butternut squash and sweet potatoes and loofahs and popcorn and garlic and leeks and turnips and okra and ground cherries and carrots and broccoli and peppers and watermelons and weeds will not be bothered. Oh, and also walking onions and onions will not be bothered by any deer. I can go to sleep and not worry. Everything will be fine tomorrow. Now I turn this off in the daytime when I'm around because they're not going to jump the fence then, and especially since they already know about it. But at night, they get a little more sneaky and brave, and they might just decide to explore it. Maybe another deer might come around from somewhere else, or another animal. But any animal that's ever been shocked in this region is not going to come this way again. It's going to stay away. Believe me, I've been shocked by that thing a lot, and it does zap you. I just now got shocked by it. I was pulling some weeds away from it. You got to make sure that not one single weed ever touches that wire. If just one blade of grass touches it, it grounds out. All the current goes into that blade of grass, which acts as a wire because it has water in it. And everything you touch to this fence should be plastic. And I don't like those plastic insulators that you hook onto metal posts. The reason is the metal post is too close and it sometimes arcs, and I can see that it's negatively pulling off of the fence. And this is a very good fence. It's a strong Australian Gallagher. And that's the first fence ever invented. It was invented by Gallagher because his horse was bothering his fancy car. And he didn't want his horse rubbing on it. And so that's another reason I have this fence up, to keep the horses from going right in. The horses would walk right through this because I grew wheat one year. It was just about ready to harvest and the horses jumped in there. And you do not want horses eating a lot of grain. It will hurt their feet, cause them to have an explosion in their hooves called founder. There's other names for it, but you don't want to give them a whole lot of grain at one time. So if they get into that wheat field, that's dangerous for them, and especially if they get into that cornfield. So the fence is also there for the horses. And also for my beehives. Every now and then when I have any kind of problem, I put the fence around it for a little while, and nothing's ever going to bother the bees. Once they've been zapped by the fence, they stay away for a long time. And they don't like being stung. The animals don't like being stung, so if they hit a beehive, they don't come back usually. But if they do, they're wary, and if they get zapped by this, they won't go any farther. I've had that going on for a long time. I've owned this thing for now maybe 6 or 7 years, maybe longer. I had a Parmac. A Parmac is an American-made copycat, but it's got metal on it and all kinds of garbage, and it didn't zap as good, even though they claimed that it was powerful, and I couldn't stand it. I gave it to a friend who plugged it in and used it, but it wasn't a plug-in. It was a solar too, but he actually jerry-rigged it and used it for hogs that he kept in a small pen. Anyway, he died and probably sold. His wife sold it in an estate sale, but I wouldn't want it back. I don't like Parmac. I like Gallagher. It's the original. It's made right. It just seems more scientific. It's just built better. It's an Australian company, I think. Or it might be New Zealand. I think it's New Zealand. But you can hear it powerfully clicking. It's an S100. Means solar 100. I love it. I've never had to replace a battery either in all this time, but I'm not hard on it. I don't let it go too low. When I don't need it, I definitely turn it off and let it charge in the sun by itself. Some people just leave them on all the time and then wear them out, but I only turn it on when I need it because it's just a flip of a switch. I just can't say enough good about what this thing has done, saving my garden. Now, it's not going to save your garden from mice. They can easily crawl under and never know that's been there, but no other animal is going to crawl under. I mean, a deer's not going to go, oh, that wire is what shocked me. I'm going to crawl under it or jump over it. No, when they get hit by that wire, they turn around and run. They go, oh, and it tears up your fence. You got to re-put it all up, fix it, because it gets all tangled. They do not come back. They're not stupid. They're not going to go, I want to try to jump the force field. They don't. Now, on the other hand, if you had a pin in a pin, like in there, they would do anything to get out, even run through it. So you got to train an animal, even a horse, to stay in an electric fence. Once they've learned about the shock, then you do have to have a whole bunch of wires to keep an animal in. They're going to try to keep getting out, but they're not going to want in that bad to go bother this. All you think about when you get shocked is, I got to get out of here. And so that's another thing. If you're in a pin and you get shocked, you're going to want to get out more because you're always thinking about that fence. But yeah, you can pin an animal out with an electric fence really easy, but not in. And my neighbor that had electric fence to pin his hogs, they were getting out all the time because he wasn't walking around looking for stems every day that might touch the fence. Man, it's dark. I got to stop this. Sorry. There goes the fingers and all that. I'm a terrible video camera person.